Jordan with the strength, the concentration, and now he is upset because
Dejounte Murray has proven himself as one of the young, promising talents in the NBA. He worked himself up to a starting spot on one of the best organizations in the league, branding himself into one of the best defensive and rebounding guards. He was an NBA All-Defensive Second-Team selection in the 2017-2008 season. Although his career began a little rocky, he had a devastating ACL tear in a preseason game and was out for the entire season. Now that he's recovered, he's ready to prove himself again and show that he belongs in the NBA. But early on in Dejounte's life, he doubted himself and didn't believe that the NBA was even a possibility. Every NBA player pretty much has their own story to tell about how they got into the league. Some are good and some are very bad. But for Dejounte, growing up in the south side of Seattle, everything wasn't about basketball at first. At the age of 11, he was already active in the violent streets of Seattle. But this is what he was accustomed to. The streets had given him the nickname Baby Boy that would stick with him forever. They gave him this name because he was the youngest on the block. His mother was in and out of the penitentiary and was the first female blood gang member in the state of Washington. With the position he was put in, he had to pretty much take care of himself. He said by the time he was 4 or 5, he knew what every drug was and what it looked like. Dejounte would get into it with the gang where his mother was from. She was from the north side, living on the rival south side. He was kind of exposed to the streets, gangs, and drugs with no way to really avoid it. Living in the hood, he would gamble on the basketball court against the older gang members, and everyone would bet on him. They could see the potential in him, but didn't really care what he could become. Just a year later, he'd catch his first federal case that could have given him life in jail. Some of the people involved wouldn't come home from jail for years. The streets was his focus, but basketball was still in the rear view for Dejounte. In high school, Dejounte attended Rainier Beach, a school that wasn't in the best neighborhood, but a very good school for basketball. It was recognized for putting players in the NBA. A few names to mention: Doug Collins, Kevin Porter Jr., Nate Robinson, and Jamal Crawford. In just his freshman year, he was already skipping school heavily and failing classes. One day at an open gym, Jamal Crawford happened to be there. He noticed that Dejounte was a lot better than most of the kids there and had told him, "Stay out the streets, little bro, you can make it." Jamal would constantly call him and text him and check up on him to make sure he was doing right and staying out of the streets. Being mentally invested in the hood, he didn't really pay attention to that. Just a few weeks later, Dejounte was thrown into a juvenile detention center for 3 months. When he was released, he said he wanted to change his life. So who did he call? With the help of Jamal Crawford and his uncles, Dejounte's life had did a complete 360. In his sophomore year, he was back in classes and living in the gym. At the conclusion of his high school years, he had won 3 state championships and was named Mr. Basketball in the state of Washington. Following high school, Dejounte committed to the University of Washington. That was basically home. They also helped him with the process of getting back on track in high school. Staying loyal was the right choice. There he averaged 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Dejounte never expected to be a one and done. He thought he'd play all 4 years at UW, but his play had shot him up to a potential lottery pick in the NBA draft and declared shortly after the season. During the pre-draft process, he'd been promised by multiple teams that he could be selected in the draft lottery, but rumors began to surface that he was a gang member, a hothead, somebody who couldn't focus fully on basketball. His past had begun to haunt him, but all he needed was a chance. Luckily, he was selected by the Spurs with the 29th pick in the first round. Dejounte believed that the Spurs knew he could hoop. He just needed guidance. Just think about it. Without the guidance of Jamal Crawford, his talent could have simply been lost to the system, the streets, or death. Jamal Crawford had been watching him hoop since he was about 12 and could always see the potential, but also seen somebody that was trapped by the streets. I'm personally glad to see Dejounte make it, because deep down inside the streets in the hood, it doesn't love nobody. Besides the past, I'm ready to see what the Spurs organization has in store for him. And I'm also ready to see if he can expand his game to that all-star level. Anyway, he deserves it. That's all I got for today's video. Hey man, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow my Instagram also. I'm gonna leave the link to my Instagram down below so y'all can get updated on when videos is dropping, and we can talk basketball on Instagram, anything. So that being said, make sure y'all subscribe, like, share, do anything y'all can for me. If you want to see a video on the player, just leave it in the comments. Germ is out.